listen and practice. Anya often found herself trapped in a frustrating linguistic paradox. Her mind effortlessly processed complex English sentences, absorbing nuances from films and books with impressive ease. Yet, when it came to forming her own verbal responses, a heavy, invisible wall materialized. Her thoughts, articulate and fluent internally, crumbled into hesitant, disjointed phrases the moment they reached her lips. This constant struggle chipped away at her confidence, leaving her feeling perpetually inadequate despite her deep understanding. She longed to express herself, to participate in lively discussions, but a pervasive shyness and self-doubt held her captive. Every social interaction where English was spoken felt like a performance she was destined to fail, reinforcing her internal anxieties. "I don't want to make mistakes, but I always do," she'd lament to her reflection, a familiar sigh escaping her lips. This crippling fear of imperfection was the primary antagonist in her personal English saga. Every potential mispronounced word, every grammatical slip, felt like a public failure, a glaring spotlight on her perceived inadequacies, even in private practice sessions. It paralyzed her, transforming simple conversations into daunting, high-stakes performances she instinctively shied away from. The potential embarrassment, the judgment she imagined in others' eyes, loomed larger than the desire to communicate. She believed that every error was a definitive mark of incompetence, forever branding her as an unsuccessful learner. She understood English beautifully, intricate plots of novels unfolded clearly, news reports made perfect sense, and witty dialogues in comedies elicited genuine laughter. But the bridge from comprehension to expression remained stubbornly unbuilt. "I understand English but I can't speak well," became her silent, daily mantra, a heavy confession whispered only to herself in moments of quiet despair. This gap felt insurmountable, a chasm between knowledge and application. She had consumed so much, yet produced so little. The passive intake of information felt like a comfortable, safe harbor, while the active output of speech felt like a stormy, dangerous sea she was ill-equipped to navigate without significant risk of capsizing. One afternoon, while scrolling through countless language learning forums, a simple, yet profound, piece of advice caught her eye. It wasn't about grammar rules or vocabulary lists, but something more fundamental. It urged the importance of consistent, daily engagement, no matter how small. This sparked a tiny flicker of hope in her weary heart, a whisper of a different path she hadn't truly explored before. The advice championed a philosophy of imperfection, emphasizing progress over flawless execution. It suggested that mistakes were not failures but essential stepping stones in the learning process, valuable feedback rather than reasons for despair. This radical shift in perspective began to gently challenge her long-held, rigid beliefs about language acquisition and mastery. The simple phrase, "listen and practice," resonated deeply with her, echoing in her mind long after she closed the browser tab. It wasn't just about passively hearing, but about active, deliberate listening, dissecting intonation, rhythm, and natural phrasing. She decided to transform her passive consumption of English media into an analytical exercise, seeking true engagement. She began with podcasts, not merely as background noise, but as concentrated lessons. Every morning walk became an immersive English soundscape. She paid meticulous attention to how native speakers connected words, how they emphasized certain syllables, and the often unspoken rules of conversational flow, seeking patterns within the seemingly chaotic stream of sounds. It was a revelation, showing her the organic, living quality of the language beyond textbooks. The formal rigidity she had internalized began to give way to a more fluid understanding of English as it truly existed in the wild. She started noticing the natural pauses, the filler words, and the variations in speed that made communication authentic and human. Next, the importance of reading became undeniable. Why you must read English was another nugget of wisdom she encountered, suggesting it built a robust internal dictionary and understanding of sentence structures. She recalled her old English novels, now viewing them as vast reservoirs of authentic language usage, waiting to be explored for active learning, not just plot enjoyment. Anya started an ambitious project, rereading her favorite English stories, but this time with a keen eye for vocabulary and grammar in context. Each narrative became a linguistic playground, where she could see how ideas were beautifully articulated. English story reading, she discovered, was not just entertainment but a powerful tool for internalizing correct patterns and expanding her expressive toolkit. She observed how people speak English in real-life scenarios, too, albeit from a distance at first. In cafes, on public transport, she discreetly listened to snippets of conversations, noting their casualness, their interruptions, their laughter. It demystified the idealized, formal English she often practiced in her head, showing her the spontaneous, sometimes messy, beauty of actual interaction. This observation led to a crucial realization. People often made small errors, hesitated, or rephrased themselves, even native speakers. The fear of perfection she held so tightly seemed less rational when confronted with the natural flow of human discourse. It was a comforting, liberating thought, chipping away at the rigid perfectionism that had held her captive for so long. She realized that the aim wasn't flawless speech, but effective communication. The goal was to convey meaning, to connect with others, and to participate in the exchange of ideas, not to pass a rigorous linguistic examination. This subtle shift in perspective slowly began to dismantle the mental block that had so severely impeded her progress. The articles she read repeatedly stressed, how to improve your English often involved breaking down the learning process into manageable, bite-sized pieces. It wasn't about grand, intimidating leaps, but about consistent, tiny steps forward, accumulating over time to produce significant results. This felt much more achievable than her previous overwhelming aspirations. One particularly resonant piece of advice was talk in English just 1 page per day. This wasn't literal, of course, but a powerful metaphor for consistent, low-pressure practice. It encouraged her to speak, even if only to herself, even if only for a short, defined period each day, without the anxiety of a demanding audience. She started small. Every morning, while brewing her coffee, she would narrate her actions in English, a soft murmur in the quiet kitchen. I am pouring the water. The kettle is whistling. Now I am adding the coffee grounds. It felt silly at first, like talking to an imaginary friend, but it forced her brain to retrieve words and construct sentences actively. This private practice session became her safe haven, a judgment-free zone where mistakes were welcome, even expected. It allowed her to experiment with new vocabulary and grammatical structures without the pressure of external scrutiny. This simple daily ritual laid the foundational bricks for future, more public, speaking attempts. Then came the inevitable moment of interacting with others. How to speak with people was an entirely different challenge, far more intimidating than solitary narration. Her heart still pounded, her palms still sweated, but the daily page-per-day practice had given her a tiny sliver of preparedness, a fraction of an edge. She joined an online language exchange group, a community specifically designed for learners to practice together. The initial conversations were still clumsy, punctuated by long pauses and frequent apologies. Yet, the understanding and patience from fellow learners provided a much-needed supportive environment, easing some of her long-standing anxieties. Anya found herself saying, "I understand English but I can't speak well," less often, and instead, focused on articulating even simple thoughts. She realized that everyone in the group was on a similar journey, battling their own linguistic demons. This shared vulnerability fostered a sense of camaraderie, making the speaking process less daunting. There were days, many days, when the old fear resurfaced. "I don't want to make mistake but I always why," she'd think, frustrated by a particularly awkward sentence or a forgotten word. But now, instead of retreating, she pushed through, reminding herself of the new philosophy: mistakes were information, not failures. She started actively soliciting corrections from her language partners, a revolutionary step for someone so fearful of error. "Please correct me if I make a mistake," became her new mantra, transforming moments of potential embarrassment into opportunities for immediate, targeted learning. This proactive approach accelerated her progress significantly. One evening, during a particularly lively video call with her exchange group, Anya found herself talking freely, responding quickly to questions, and even initiating new topics. The words flowed, not perfectly, but smoothly enough that the effort felt less agonizing, the process more natural, almost intuitive in its rhythm. A wave of exhilaration washed over her. It wasn't a grand, dramatic speech, but a genuine, unforced conversation. The invisible wall, once so formidable, had not vanished entirely, but it had certainly shrunk, becoming a permeable membrane rather than an impenetrable barrier. This was the breakthrough she had silently yearned for. She realized then, with profound clarity, why you should practice speaking. It wasn't merely about perfecting grammar or accumulating vocabulary, it was about building confidence, developing fluency, and enabling genuine human connection. The act of speaking transformed theoretical knowledge into practical, living ability, bringing English to life for her. The fear of mistakes didn't disappear completely, but its grip weakened considerably. She understood that making errors was an inevitable part of the learning curve, a sign of active engagement rather than a deficiency. Each stumble was a lesson, each hesitant phrase a step closer to effortless expression. Her daily one-page-per-day practice evolved. It wasn't just about narrating her morning routine, but engaging in short, focused monologues about her day, her thoughts, or even descriptions of random objects around her apartment. This consistent verbal exercise strengthened her speaking muscles and improved her spontaneous word retrieval. She also started summarizing articles and stories she read, aloud, to herself. This active recall and verbalization of information bridged the gap between passive reading comprehension and active verbal expression. It was a potent combination of English story reading and why you should practice speaking in one effective exercise. Anya began incorporating small, intentional English interactions into her real life. Asking for directions, ordering coffee, or greeting shopkeepers, tiny opportunities to apply her growing confidence and test her linguistic agility in low-stakes environments, making her feel more comfortable with how to speak with people. These brief exchanges, though seemingly insignificant individually, collectively built a formidable reservoir of practical experience. Each successful interaction, no matter how brief or simple, reinforced her belief in her own capabilities and eroded the long-standing doubts about her ability to communicate effectively. Her listening skills also sharpened profoundly. Listen and practice had truly paid off. She not only understood the words but also the underlying emotions and intentions in conversations. This deeper comprehension made her responses more appropriate and fluid, creating a more natural conversational flow for her. She found herself effortlessly mimicking intonations she had previously only noticed, and using idiomatic expressions that felt natural on her tongue. It was as if her extensive listening practice had subliminally reprogrammed her brain, allowing her to speak with a more authentic cadence and rhythm, resembling how people speak English naturally. The journey wasn't without its bumps. There were still days of frustration, moments when words stubbornly refused to cooperate, or when she felt a surge of the old embarrassment. But these moments were now fleeting, overcome by the larger momentum of her progress and the tangible improvements she experienced daily. She understood that improvement wasn't a linear ascent but a winding path with plateaus and occasional dips. The key was persistence, the unwavering commitment to why you must read English and why you should practice speaking, even when motivation wavered or progress felt slow, trusting the cumulative effect. Her initial lament, "I understand English but I can't speak well," faded into a distant memory, replaced by a quiet confidence. She could speak, not flawlessly, but effectively, with increasing ease and enjoyment. The language, once a source of anxiety, transformed into a tool for connection and self-expression. Anya started volunteering for international events in her city, eager to utilize her newfound conversational skills. She engaged with people from diverse backgrounds, discussing culture, travel, and current affairs. These interactions were rich, fulfilling, and provided constant opportunities to refine her abilities further. She even started a small online blog where she wrote short stories and personal reflections in English. English story reading had inspired her to try her hand at English story writing, applying the vocabulary and narrative structures she had absorbed from countless books and articles in her own creative endeavors. This creative outlet further solidified her understanding and command of the language, proving to herself that English was not just for communication, but also for personal expression and artistic exploration. It was a testament to how far she had come from her initial fears and hesitations, building upon her consistent efforts. Anya's transformation was a living testament to the power of consistent, incremental effort. The idea of talking English just one page per day had blossomed into a robust, confident voice, capable of navigating complex discussions and forming meaningful connections with people worldwide, without the constant dread of errors. She discovered that fluency wasn't about never making mistakes, but about the courage to make them and learn from them. It was about embracing the imperfect journey, celebrating small victories, and understanding that every hesitant word was a brave step forward on the path to confident communication and self-assurance. Her story became an inspiration to her friends who also grappled with similar language anxieties. She shared her strategies, emphasizing the importance of listen and practice, and the liberating realization that perfection was an unattainable and unnecessary burden in the pursuit of fluency and genuine interaction. She encouraged them to engage in English story reading, not just for plot, but for language immersion, to see how people speak English through authentic narratives, absorbing the rhythm and flow naturally. She advocated for active engagement with the language in all its forms, seeing it as a dynamic, evolving system. Anya particularly stressed the daily, low-pressure speaking exercises. Just 1 page per day, she'd tell them, even if it's just talking to your cat. It builds the muscle. This simple, actionable advice resonated deeply, demystifying the daunting task of becoming a proficient English speaker for many of them. She highlighted why you must read English as a bedrock for building a strong vocabulary and understanding complex structures, providing the raw material for conversation. Reading provided the mental framework upon which confident speaking could eventually be built, linking comprehension to expression effectively. Her own journey from "I understand English but I can't speak well" to confidently articulating her thoughts served as living proof. It showed that the barrier was often mental, a fear of judgment, rather than a lack of understanding or inherent ability. The internal shift was as crucial as the external practice. Anya's evolution illustrated vividly why you should practice speaking consistently and without fear. It unlocks not just a language, but opportunities, new friendships, career advancements, and a deeper understanding of diverse cultures, expanding one's world in previously unimaginable ways, leading to personal growth. The persistent thought, "I don't want make mistake but I always why," had been replaced by a new understanding: mistakes are inevitable, valuable, and temporary. They are signposts on the road to mastery, not roadblocks to be avoided. This acceptance brought immense liberation and accelerated her learning process significantly. She truly learned how to improve your English by moving beyond rote memorization to active, experiential learning. It was about applying knowledge, making connections, and embracing the real-world usage of the language, transforming it from an academic subject into a practical, living skill that empowered her daily endeavors. Her advice on how to speak with people became simple: Start with small, low-pressure interactions. Focus on conveying meaning, not on absolute perfection. Be patient with yourself and others. Embrace the awkwardness, for it is through these very moments that true growth and confidence are forged over time, naturally. Anya's life had opened up. She traveled more confidently, engaged with global news more deeply, and connected with people she otherwise never would have. English was no longer a hurdle but a bridge, connecting her to a vast, vibrant world of ideas and relationships, enriching her existence in countless unforeseen ways. The seemingly impossible dream of speaking English well had become a tangible reality, born from consistent effort and a courageous shift in mindset. Her story stands as a beacon for anyone who believes their understanding is strong but their voice is weak, proving that consistent practice is the ultimate key to unlocking potential. She continues to listen and practice daily, now with joy rather than obligation. Her reading habits are stronger than ever, still finding new insights from English story reading. Every conversation is a new opportunity to learn, to connect, and to celebrate the remarkable journey of language acquisition. Anya often reflects on the initial frustration, the paralyzing fear of error, and the breakthrough realization that consistent, imperfect practice was the only true path forward. Her story resonates with anyone who has ever felt the gap between understanding and speaking, offering a clear roadmap to bridge that divide effectively. The journey was deeply personal, yet its lessons universal. It reaffirmed that learning a language is not just about linguistics, it's about resilience, self-acceptance, and the courage to step outside one's comfort zone, one carefully chosen word at a time, building confidence with every single interaction and successful communication. Her confidence radiated, affecting other areas of her life. The bravery she found in speaking English spilled over into other challenges, making her more assertive and willing to take risks. Learning English had become a catalyst for broader personal development, empowering her in profound and unexpected ways, truly transformative. The simple daily commitment, the one-page-per-day metaphor, proved to be the most powerful tool in her arsenal. It transformed an overwhelming goal into a series of achievable micro-habits, demonstrating that consistency, not intensity, is the ultimate driver of long-term success in any complex skill, especially language. Anya's story is a vivid illustration of why I don't want make mistake, but I always why should transform into I make mistakes, and that's why I learn. This shift in perspective is the true turning point, moving from fear-based avoidance to growth-oriented engagement, accelerating mastery, and fostering true fluency. Her current fluency is a testament to the fact that understanding doesn't automatically translate to speaking, but consistent, brave practice does. The chasm between comprehension and expression can indeed be bridged, not by avoiding mistakes, but by embracing them as invaluable components of the entire learning process. So, if you're someone who says, I understand English but I can't speak well, take inspiration from Anya. Start small. Listen actively. Read widely. And most importantly, practice speaking, even if it's just one page per day. Your confident English voice is waiting to be discovered, ready to share your unique story. The power of daily, deliberate practice cannot be overstated. It's the consistent drip that carves the stone, the small step that eventually covers miles. Anya's journey from hesitant silence to joyful articulation serves as a compelling reminder for all aspiring English speakers, offering a clear path forward to confidence and fluency. Her experience ultimately proved that the path to speaking fluent English is less about avoiding error and more about relentlessly engaging with the language, embracing every stumble as a lesson. It is a journey of continuous improvement, where every spoken word, no matter how imperfect, is a triumph of progress over paralyzing fear and self-doubt.